The protagonist begins by recalling a defining moment in his life, his first experience with alcohol. The feeling of nausea and dizziness left him completely disillusioned with drinking. On top of that, he was already dealing with intense academic pressure, and the situation only added to his stress. As he reflected on everything, a charismatic girl approached him and asked if he was feeling bored. He apologized for seeming distant, but she reassured him, saying there was no problem in not enjoying certain places. Despite the difficulties, there was always room for happy moments. Their conversation was soon interrupted by another girl, who suggested they head to karaoke. He hesitated, feeling uncomfortable with the idea, as he lacked confidence in his singing abilities and even considered leaving the gathering early at tea that moment. A freshman suggested they sneak away since she also couldn't drink anymore. He worried about being noticed, but she, already tipsy, insisted they slip away quietly. Eventually, they both left unnoticed as they walked together. He felt a slight regret for leaving, as he wanted to stay a little longer to try and get closer to a particular girl who had caught his attention. For the first time, he wondered if he was falling in love. The girl accompanying him suggested they get some ramen, mentioning she couldn't drink any longer. Once they arrived at his apartment and started eating, she opted for juice instead of alcohol. When he pointed it out, she laughed, joking that since they would be studying together for a long time, this moment was worth celebrating. During their conversation, she reminded him of all the times she had helped him in the past, saving him from dogs, standing up to bullies, and even handling paperwork for him. Teasingly, she asked him to call her Nuna, but he refused, embarrassed. Trying to change the subject, she congratulated him on getting into university and mentioned that she would be graduating soon. Wanting to lighten the mood, she asked if he had someone in mind to date. At that moment, his thoughts immediately turned to the girl from karaoke. After finishing their meal, the girl returned home, leaving him alone with his thoughts. Sitting in his room, he reflected on everything that had happened. He wondered if dating someone would be nice and whether he even had a chance with someone special. He got lost in his thoughts until he was startled by a sudden knock on his door. Assuming it was his Nuna returning, he opened the door without hesitation. But to his shock, it was the karaoke girl. Before he could react, she entered the apartment and collapsed onto his bed. Confused, he tried to stop her and explain that she might have come to the wrong place, but she ignored him completely. The moment she lay down, she fell asleep instantly. He stood there, frozen, trying to make sense of the situation. Recognizing her as the senior from the freshman welcome party, he wondered how this had happened. She hadn't seemed that drunk during the second round of drinks. As he struggled to process the situation, he noticed that she began removing layers of clothing in her sleep, seemingly bothered by the heat. Not knowing what to do, he decided to wait things out in the bathroom until she woke up. Sitting there, he pondered, why did she come to me? Is she my neighbor? How did such a beautiful girl end up in my bed? The next morning, he woke up as she shook him awake, concerned that he wasn't responding. As she moved toward the shower, he started apologizing, but she reassured him, explaining that she had mistaken the apartments. She recognized him from the party and introduced herself as Leun Yong. He reciprocated, introducing himself as Hin Ho. The following day, during their study session, he felt completely distracted, as if stuck in place. His Nuna tried to engage him in conversation, but his mind was elsewhere, completely consumed by thoughts of Leun Yong. Despite his preoccupation, the girl who had tried to talk to him earlier still managed to get a response. She invited him to dinner and asked why he seemed so distant, sitting with such a strange expression. He responded that something good had happened and, after a brief pause, added that if there was someone she liked, then he might have someone in mind too. Hearing this, she blushed and asked where this girl was from. He replied that she was from their university. Misinterpreting his words, she assumed he was talking about her and awkwardly replied that she wasn't ready yet. But then, he said the name of the girl he liked, and she immediately realized he wasn't referring to her at all. A wave of disappointment washed over her. Curious, she asked if he knew this girl well and added that she had heard rumors about her but wasn't sure if they were true. Not wanting to answer, she quickly said that she didn't know anything, trying to hide her emotions, and offered to go buy him a sandwich for breakfast. During dinner, they continued their conversation, and she remarked that Leun Yong was incredibly beautiful, so much so that people often said she could be a model or even a celebrity. However, it was strange that she didn't have a boyfriend. She told him not to get his hopes up just yet, as Leun Yong had very high standards or perhaps wasn't interested in relationships at all. At worst, she suggested, she might even be interested in girls. Hin Ho, unsure how to respond, asked what she thought about it. At first, she hesitated, reluctant to answer, but then she suddenly changed the topic, explaining that Leun Yong was part of the history study group and spent a lot of time with people from there. If he could join the group, it might give him the chance to get closer to her. Imagining the possibilities, Hin Ho felt a surge of excitement. Noticing his enthusiasm, the girl interrupted his thoughts, suggesting that he ask about joining the group at the university. She added that they didn't accept just anyone, but it was worth a try. Later, Leun Yong stopped by her friends in the history group, but left almost immediately to approach Hin Ho. She brought him a cake, saying she owed him from last time. As she turned to leave, he gathered the courage to ask if he could join the group. Smiling, she took his phone and saved her number in it, instructing him to call her the next day after class. Then, she left. Hin Ho stared at her number on his phone, his heart swelling with joy. His Nuna noticed everything. The next day, Hin Ho couldn't focus during class. His mind was consumed by anticipation, eagerly waiting for the lesson to end so he could call Leun Yong. Finally, the moment came, and they arranged to meet. Leun Yong led him to a massive building that housed their study quarters. The space seemed far too grand for a study group, but Hin Ho brushed it off, focusing only on the fact that he was with her. As soon as they entered, a girl from the group ran up to him, hugged him tightly, and called him cute. He froze in surprise as the other guys in the room turned to stare at him. Trying to maintain his composure, he introduced himself confidently, saying, "My name is Hin Ho, and I'm a freshman in business administration. Nice to meet you." As Han Swan and Jong Pil whispered to each other, Swan playfully remarked on Hin Ho's presence, teasing Jong Pil about his preferences. However, Jong Pil reminded her that no decision had been made yet. Hin Ho would only officially join after passing a test. Swan smirked, adding that while she found him cute, they shouldn't let their guard down, as guys like him often turned out to be surprising in ways no one expected. Shortly after, Swan turned to Hin Ho and asked why he decided to join the group. He replied sincerely that he liked history, which made her laugh. Turning the question back at her, he asked why she was part of the group, and she casually responded that it was just for fun. As he observed the group, Hin Ho couldn't help but think about Eun Yong. During the freshman welcome party, she had seemed bored and uninterested. Yet now, as she planned something with Swan, she looked genuinely happy. That night, after officially joining the group, Hin Ho had a strange dream. In his mind, he and Eun Yong were playing a game together. But when he woke up, he realized it wasn't a dream at all. Han Swan was actually next to him, playing a game with him in real life. Feeling awkward, he became concerned about Swan's relationship with her boyfriend, but she casually dismissed his worries, telling him to listen closely to the sounds in the background. That's when he realized that her boyfriend, Choi Jang, and the professor were playing a different kind of game in another room. Since it was his first time, Hin Ho couldn't believe how easily he had gotten involved. Swan continued to play alongside him, but at some point, she noticed something odd about his controller. It felt different. Despite her curiosity, he continued without hesitation. Intrigued, Swan observed Hin Ho more closely. There was something unique about him. For someone new to the game, he wasn't as lost as she expected. He adapted quickly, and as they continued playing, she found herself enjoying it more than she had anticipated. Thinking to herself, she concluded that this guy was definitely something special. When the game ended, they cleaned up together, and Swan took the opportunity to explain something to him. She referred to the experience as practical learning, a term they used to keep outsiders from becoming too interested in the group. With a satisfied smile, she officially welcomed him to the group. From now on, she explained, he would have the chance to study with every girl in the group, at first. Hin Ho didn't fully understand what she meant. Curious, he asked about Eun Yong, and Swan told him that she didn't actively participate in their lessons. As their conversation became more relaxed, Swan revealed a calmer and more genuine side of her personality, explaining the structure of their group training. To Hin Ho's surprise, he learned that Leun Yong was the one who had created the group, but no one truly knew the purpose behind it, except her. Swan then explained the rules of the group. The club's existence must remain a secret. Leun Yong is only a facilitator and does not participate in training. All lessons must be reported to the facilitator. The facilitator is responsible for allocating funds and arranging study spaces, including their current meeting place. Most importantly, members must train at least once a week, or they will be removed from the club. Swan also mentioned some benefits of joining, saying that they could help pay for his housing and that he could even earn money while studying. It was a convenient setup, but despite her enthusiasm, Hin Ho hesitated and decided to refuse, stating that he needed to focus on other types of training. Hearing this, Swan became visibly worried. She didn't want to lose him and immediately tried to persuade him to stay. She pointed out that his hesitation was because he couldn't study with Leun Yong. "Everyone wants to study with her," she emphasized. "Even my boyfriend, Choi Jang, thinks about it. Did you know that Leun Yong only interacts with people from the training group? That means that if anyone gets the chance to start studying with her, it will be someone from our club. Can you imagine another guy getting to study with her instead of you?" Her words hit Hin Ho hard, and without thinking much, he immediately changed his mind. He told her he would join, which made Swan ecstatic. Overjoyed, she jumped with excitement and suggested continuing his studies right away. When he hesitated again, she insisted, reminding him that if he truly wanted to study with Leun Yong, he needed to be smart and ready at that moment. Hin Ho couldn't think clearly. Maybe the remnants of the previous night's drinks were still affecting him, but the only thing he knew was that this was his only chance to get closer to Leun Yong and protect her from other guys. During the training session, exhaustion finally caught up with him, and he dozed off a little while later. Leun Yong called to check on the results of their test. Swan enthusiastically reported back, stating that Hin Ho was still a bit clumsy but had huge potential. With that, Hin Ho officially passed the test and became a full member of the group. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing manhwa content.